Hello and welcome to Media Queen TV. I'm here with the effervescent, amazing, one of the most inspiring people I know, Miss Lynn Santer, who I've known for 20 years, would you believe? Now, if you haven't seen this lady, where have you been? She has been winning awards all over the world with her amazing, hard-hitting documentaries, Land of the Free. She is a producer of this internationally acclaimed documentary. And she is also the author of the anthropomorphized animal adventure novels, the Mermaid Waters series. She is a philanthropist, a wildlife warrior, an animal activist, a pianist, a poet, a pilot, and occasionally a piss pot. Welcome to the show, Lynn.
Thank you so much. What an interesting introduction.
Well,
And I'm partly proud and partly ashamed to say all true.
yeah. Yeah, the piss pot bit particularly. That bit is always fun around Christmas
This how
time.
the hat fits.
Yeah. And Santer is, of course, your real surname, Santer.
I am the real Santa Claus.
You are the
Yes.
real Santa Claus, absolutely. Now, we actually first met, would you believe, when I was a journalist at the Sun newspapers on the Gold Coast in the early 2000s, and you came to me with a story at the time about the eels in the lake out the front of your place and what was happening with these eels eating all the baby swans, all the little cygnets at the time. And that was just one story you came to me with at the time. And then there was just one story after another. You were doing so many amazing things. So just to give people a little bit of background, some of the stories you came to me with at the time, like you did the events at Dreamworld, there was just, you were always doing something, in the area of taking action for animals, particularly. I remember a lot around that. So, share a little bit about that if you can, of why you reached out at the time.
Well, I mean, my wildlife warrior work and my contacting of media goes back way before you and I met well over 20 years ago now to
Hmm.
when I was pre-teens. I actually started working for an organization called the Busy Bees, which is the junior arm of the People's Dispensary for Sick Animals when I was living in London. Um, and they had a number of different badges that children could earn for raising awareness, for raising funds, for various things. And I became so active in that I didn't only earn all the badges, they had to create a new award just for me. And I still have the certificate to this day for outstanding effort. So I was born to write. I was actually writing stories on my bedroom wall in crayon as an infant. My parents very quickly decided to keep me supplied with an endless stream of paper and pens.
Yeah.
And I was born with a passion to help animals and a love for all wildlife and an ability to connect with all wildlife. I've taken some pretty insane risks in some pretty remote places over the years, and I have remained unscathed from all of the wildlife encounters I've had. I certainly haven't remained unscathed from other incidents, but miraculously, and some of these were, quite frankly, stupid risks. I've tracked wild predators on foot in Africa. I've swum with dolphins and sharks and whales. Um, I've flown planes and dived oceans and been in remote outback with indigenous personnel who were armed, who I'd never met before that day, and came out of all of that without a scratch.
Mm.
Ripped the meniscus out of my knee in an office in Los Angeles. So, you know, it's been an interesting journey.
Well, what's wonderful is that you have not been backwards in coming forwards, right? A lot of people, they want to make a difference for animals, but they just have no idea what to do, how to get out there. They don't have the confidence or the balls, I'd say, that you have with what you've done. You've been very courageous. And, some of the people, obviously, you've worked with as well have been incredibly courageous in this field. Now, what has it taken for you to build up that kind of confidence and courage?
Well, a couple of things I should probably mention there. Um, my confidence, courage, passion, and knowledge initially came from my father. My father was the international managing director of an international pharmaceutical company, somewhat ironically, who spent a lot of time in Africa involved in medical research, ironically.
Wow.
But his passion was photography. And he used to go with a small suitcase of clothes and a large suitcase of Super 8 camera gear, as it was back then. And he made David Attenborough style documentaries of the African outback, which he screened in a cinema that he had built in the attic of our London home. So from a small child, I was watching these films that my daddy made, and nobody was bigger, better, smarter, braver, wiser than my father. In fact, I walked up to a cousin who was clearly taller than my father once when I was about 3 and said, "You are not taller than my father." And this just instilled in me a passion, a fascination, and the knowledge. And despite what he was obviously doing pharmaceutically in Africa, excuse me, my father was a great lover of wildlife and of the greater good, and we had many deep and meaningful conversations about that. So initially it came from him, but as I grew up, I became a donor as opposed to an activist. And I'm terribly sorry, I have a tickle in my throat.
That's okay. I want to say too, you've been a massive supporter of the animal action events that we've had over the last 18 years. You've supported nearly every one of them, I think, except for one where you were actually there. And I really want to thank you for all of your support. The animal action events we've done over the years, raising funds for many different charities, and it's all about awareness, appreciation, respect for animals. So whenever I've reached out to you, you've always been, coming forward with donations of some sort, whether it's financial, whether it's supporting with gifts for the raffle, or being a speaker at the events. You've been extraordinary in your support of the animal action events. I really want to thank you for that too. So back to your dad.
That's always been a pleasure, and of course that's how we've connected in that shared passion. So anyway, we emigrated to Australia as a family in 78. I returned to London between 94 and 99. And I was sitting having breakfast in my London apartment when a news item came on about Kimber the lioness, who the Born Free organisation wanted to rescue from private ownership in Italy. She'd been kept in a cage over a restaurant. Terrible story. Anyway, I got my checkbook out straight away. But that event was the catalyst to me soon after meeting Virginia McKenna, who is now Dame Virginia McKenna, who of course was the star of the immortal classic Born Free. And oh gosh, we're talking 30 years ago. So Virginia and I have become long-term close friends since then. But that got me integrally involved in the Born Free Foundation, and that catalyst incident morphed me from donor to activist. So that was definitely a sliding doors moment that changed my life. And up until that point, even though I had loved Africa, I'd been fascinated by Africa, I'd been helping causes in Africa, I had never been to Africa. Because after watching those documentaries of my father's as a child, I had built Africa up to be something so enormous in my childish mind that my adult mind told me that it could never be that good. And if I went, I would burst the bubble. So I went all over the world and kept avoiding Africa. And my professional life was in finance, and there was a general election coming up in the UK, and all work was going to be put on hold. And I thought, well, you know what? The time's right, I'm going to do it. And I did a lot of research as to where to go, because I wanted in the day for it to be real. I wanted it to be me, my guide, because I had to have one, and nobody else. But when I went back at night, I wanted to go back to 4 brick walls, comfortable bed and a hot shower. Now that comes with a pretty hefty price tag, but it can be done. So I found this place called Ngala, which is 15,000 hectares of private game land on the boundary of the Kruger National Park. I booked myself to go, and when I arrived, much to my delight and their horror, for the first time in their history, I was the only guest booked in, and they were freaking out about this single white woman coming from London and finding that there were no other guests there. Well, Aldwyn, I arrived to 15,000 private hectares of prime African game land, 80 staff, and the animals of Africa to myself. That is
Wow.
what my idea of heaven looks like. So I certainly wasn't horrified at all. This was a dream come true. And furthermore, I just started having pilot lessons at the time, and I was picked up at a little airport in Skakuza, in the Kruger. And the transfer from Skakuza to Ngala was a Cessna Caravan, a 12-seater. And I had the general manager, a lady, and the pilot, another lady, with me. And they said, well, as you've got the whole plane, where would you like to sit? And I said, well, I'd like to sit in the co-pilot seat if you don't mind. And they said, have you had any flying lessons? And I said, well, yes. So they queried me about that. And they said, well, I didn't have my full license. We wouldn't normally do this, but as there are no other passengers, how would you like to pilot the plane? I went, are you joking? So I began my first time in Africa ever by piloting a 12-seater Cessna over the Kruger National Park. That was never going to happen in my lifetime, except it just did. So
Wow.
this fear I had of Africa not being what I had built it up to be in my child's mind, far from bursting the bubble, it exceeded my expectations, which wasn't possible, but there you are. So that's how it happened.
Wow, what an extraordinary experience. And of course, with your Land of the Free documentaries, oh my gosh, so powerful. It's been such a long journey for you, over 20 years, helping to end trophy hunting of endangered animals. Can you share how that started, the whole Land of the Free journey?
Well, as you know, I was in the middle of organising a high-profile event at what was then Jupiter's Casino with my very close friend who I met after Virginia, Tippi Hedren, who, of course, has run Shambhala, a big cat sanctuary, for over 40 years. She was coming out to front the event, and I was putting this whole thing together on my own when I received an email from somebody I had never heard of in Zimbabwe. Her name was Meryl Harrison. At the time, she was chief inspector with the Zimbabwe SPCA. She had moved heaven and earth to get a law put through against all odds to stop the hunting of endangered leopard with packs of hounds, which is a favoured method used by our nemesis, the Safari Club International. No sooner had she got the law through when we can't say for sure, except we can say for sure, that Safari Club International used their influence to not overturn the law, because they couldn't do that, but to get exemptions put in. Those exemptions, which were supposed to be strictly limited, both in terms of number of kills and duration of time, are still operating today, over 25 years later. So Meryl, in desperation, sent out a call for help to everyone involved in wildlife welfare around the world. And I'm sure most of them did what I initially did, which was to say, how do you fight such political muscle and financial wealth that they can act with impunity, ignore laws? You know, to them, the laws of a foreign sovereign nation were irrelevant. It was their God-given right to do this, which they honestly believed, some of them. And so they were going to do it regardless. And especially, how could I personally do anything about it, and from the other end of the world? And I stopped everything I was doing for the event, and I walked around the house, and I said, damn it, I'm not going to do what everybody else is going to do, which is to say, this is terrible. but there's nothing I can do about it. I'm going to have a cup of coffee and get on with my day. I'm going to damn well do something about it. So, as one does if one lives in a James Bond film, I went out and I found myself some ex-Special Forces commandos. Please don't ask me how I did that. I'm not going to tell you. And I said, I want to plan a covert mission. And we started to have a bit of a conversation about this. And I said, look, I don't know if you guys are hunters yourselves. And the main guy, who had a deep, gravelly voice, even deeper than mine, held his hand out to me and said, let me stop you right there. I have never shot anything but a human in my life. I went,
all right.
okay. That's what he said. So anyway, the conversation continued, and that began the odyssey of the land of the free journey. I brought Meryl out to Australia. Tippy got involved behind the scenes in the covert planning. And over the 25 years that has followed, this has taken many, many, many twists and turns, till we have come to where we are today, with the law so close to getting through in the United Kingdom to ban the import of trophy hunting. We've already banned the imports of many species here in Australia, but not all. So there's still work that needs to be done in Australia. Of course, America is the biggest nemesis, and Texas is the biggest nemesis of all, and that's where the headquarters of Safari Club happens to reside. But what we have learned over the last 25 years, the army of powerful people who have joined our side of the fight in that 25 years, the disinformation and fake social media sites and lies and dirty dealings and Machiavellian machinations that have gone on behind the scenes. I mean, 25 years, you learn a few things. So this has all been put into my two documentaries that have now won awards all over the world and had a lot of legal advice behind them. I've got a very, very powerful international law firm behind me. For those hunters who might be thinking of suing me, we're ready. And the fight continues. But we're in a much, much stronger position with a lot more people around us than I was 25 years ago. And it was me going to you going, let's please tell this story. We've come a long way since then.
You've done an amazing job. Now, for those who don't really get the scope of how big this is, how big the hunting industry is, and what kind of animals are actually being taken down and what their justifications are for this insane animal cruelty, absolutely barbarous practice. I mean, I cannot believe people get off on this and actually enjoy this. They do it for fun. Can you share some of the animals that are being killed and how they're being killed?
Well, they take immense pride and pleasure, the hunters, but the people at the top of the tree who may take pride and pleasure in an actual kill, for them it's not about the pride and the pleasure, it's about the profit. Trophy hunting is about one thing: money. A lot of money. This is very, very, very big business. Safari Club International has a manual. I have a copy of that manual. They award points for greater accolades for the rarest animal killed. Quite to the contrary of them telling you that they only take the old and the infirm and the troublesome, that's absolutely not true. They are given more points for the biggest and best species, in other words, the most vital to the dwindling gene pool of a specific species. The most continents killed on, the most animals killed, and the most brutal method for the kill, with more points being given for kills that are obtained with bows and barbed arrows.
Wow. That's insane.
It's a charming group of people, and they will stop at nothing to make sure this legislation does not get through.
And what kind of animals are we talking about?
Well, the favoured are leopards, lions, elephants, giraffes, zebras, but there are rarer animals. I mean, one was a very rare sheep, only 400 alive on Earth. And, even in the United States, animals like that, under CITES protection, are not permitted import as trophies. But if you have enough money, there are ways around any rules, especially when your father is the president. Donald Trump Jr. is the current poster boy for Safari Crop International. That doesn't help.
No, it's absolutely horrible. I believe in karma, and I do believe what comes around goes around personally, although it's going to take a lot more than karma, I think, to end this and to actually save some of these species, because no doubt there will be, endangered species now because of this, and, critically endangered, etc. Even though they'll say that it's actually to protect the animals, right? This is the kind of lies that they put out, right? That they
yes.
do.
Hunters love animals, and it's all about conservation.
Yeah, they give us that BS. We know
If you believe that, I have a bridge to sell to you in Brooklyn.
Yeah, there you go. Yes. Yeah, and I do believe hurt people, and a lot of these people, I think, they just want to feel powerful in some way. And to me, it's the biggest sign of weakness to do this kind of thing. I think there's a lot to be said for kindness and compassion to other beings, whether they're animal beings or human beings. And some of these people are just, the worst kind of human being that you can imagine. And I think, they're going to have a lot of nasty stuff coming back their way, whether it's spiritual or emotional or mental or whatever. I mean, how people can live with themselves, I do not know. But then we do know there's a lot of sociopaths and psychopaths in these organizations that don't give a damn about anyone else. And it's all about the money. And I would say
all about
also,
the money and power. At the top of the tree, it's all about money and power. The killing of the animals is at the second level. The top level, it's all about the money and the power.
Yeah, it's absolutely atrocious. And I know a lot of people will be watching this now and thinking, well, what can they do to help to stop this? What are some things people can do to get empowered around this and to help stop this from happening?
Okay, well, nobody is powerless in this, not anymore, because thanks in part to my films and the enormous international exposure they've had, the information is out there now. And as I often say, the ocean is not a vast body of water. It is made up of an infinite number of individual drops, and you are all those individual drops. And together, we become a tsunami. And that tsunami cannot be ignored. Now, what I mean by that is you write to your federal MP, or if you're British, your local MP, or if you're American, your congressman or your senator. Go to landofthefreemovie.com. Ask me to get a copy of the film by some other means. Watch the film, become informed, write to these people with what you learn, and insist that bans are put in on the imports of all endangered species as trophies. I mean, we have a lot of bans in place in a lot of countries already, and over 70 airlines already not prepared to some level or another to carry these trophies. We're winning, but it isn't an on-off switch. It isn't just something you can go, well, that's it, we've won, it's not going to happen anymore. You've got to talk about the money of it all, and then there's canned hunting as well as the wild trophy hunting. There's multiple layers upon layers upon layers, but inch by inch, we are winning, and we will win.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's amazing. And I think, testament to that is the number of awards. Have you won over 50 awards now or something with 50 awards?
Yeah, over 50 locations around the world. Yeah.
And recently finally recognised in Australia. So can you share about that one?
Yes. I produced this with a partner in Hollywood, James Ganea, and we honestly, the countries, Dubai, India, Tokyo, Japan, countries I never would have imagined cared, where we've won, obviously in America and the UK and around Europe, but none of the Australian festivals even selected us for a screening, never mind nominated us. James said to me, don't they like you in Australia? So I said, look, honestly, I've given up on Australia. Well, unbeknown to me, he went, not having that. James has been the most incredible partner on this project. He did a lot of research, and he submitted to the AFIN International Film Festival, and we were selected, and we were nominated in 2 categories. We became a finalist for Best Editing, we were nominated for Best Original Score, and we were nominated for Best Documentary. And I said, and there are reasons why I haven't been able to attend in person the other international festivals, but I think I can get to this one. And as you know, because you were there with me, we won across the board. And it really, I want to say it was like winning an Oscar, but in a way, as I said on the night when Ellen DeGeneres hosted the Emmys and said, if you win tonight, that's all very nice, but you mustn't lose track of what is really important in life. Winning an Oscar.
I love that.
And I beg to differ, because these awards are important, because it's awareness, awareness, awareness. The more screenings, the more exposure, and the more awards, the more attention we get. And information is power, and the more people that know and the more people that take action, the closer we are to winning the cause. So that was such an amazing night. As you know, you were there.
Yes, it was a phenomenal night, an amazing speech. In fact, so good, I'm going to give it the clap. Yay! Well done, well done. That was awesome. Loved it. And you had some very cool people in the room too who had travelled from interstate to be there. Could you share who attended the film night?
Well, my post-production producer from New South Wales, Brian Rapsey, who I had never met in person before the night. I have done so much of this remotely for reasons I won't go into at the moment, who's just gorgeous and super talented. Kirstine Lum McKay, who has been on this journey with me as long as you have. Originally a producer and then reporter with the Nine Network, who did a story with Tippy and myself back in 2006, who ended up narrating my second documentary, also from New South Wales, and Nigel Christensen, also from New South Wales, who is an Oscar-winning sound technician, who I'd also never met before the night, and also just, we had so much fun. But I will tell you one funny thing, and this could be a good segue actually into the anthropomorphized novels, because Nigel and I were talking about various projects outside of Land of the Free, and I said I would really like him to speak to another of my Hollywood partners, Arnold Rudnick, about these anthropomorphized novels that we may now speak about, because we're working on developing them into animated musical feature films. And after the weekend, I spoke to Arnold. I said, you've got to speak to Nigel. And I've told Nigel he's got to speak to you. And Arnold contacted Nigel and said, Lynn's told me that we need to speak, and now I'm afraid not to. And Nigel messaged back, having just spent a weekend with Lynn, I understand the fear.
That's classic.
Okay, I'm really cute and harmless, truly.
Yes.
And if you believe that, I've got another bridge in Brooklyn I'm going to sell you.
On the surface, but don't mess with you. I know that much, right? Don't want to upset Lynn or you'll be in trouble. Yes. And now this was only about a month ago, I think, wasn't it? The weekend in Brisbane?
Yes, the film. It was the beginning of November, yes.
There you go, a month ago today. So congratulations on that. That's a massive achievement. And as you say, every award gets the word out there. It helps more people be aware. And you have some phenomenal people who supported you. You've got Priscilla Presley in the documentary. You've got Cliff Simon. And this was Cliff's last project before he passed. Is that correct?
Yes. Cliff, who was an Olympic standard swimmer and a champion kiteboarder, was killed in a freak kiteboarding accident right after he filmed for us for the first film.
Wow. And he's known for his work in Stargate. in the
Yes,
series.
the sexy, sinister system Lord Barr.
It's
Just such a lovely man. We got along so well. And he told me, I'm not going to let anybody else narrate this documentary. So he narrated the first one, and we managed to use some of his work in the second one as well. But, it took a slightly different track. So we brought Kirstine in, and she did a wonderful job, the beautiful Kirstine.
Yes, she is amazing.
But
And
yes, I mean, celebrity-wise, there's Priscilla, who's also involved with my anthropomorphic animal adventure novels, and Gaston Leroux and various other projects of mine. Priscilla and I have become really close friends. I adore her. She's got a wicked sense of humour like me. She's got a great sense of family like me. We've been in each other's homes. I love her. I just love her to pieces. And then, of course, Virginia McKenna was in the documentaries. Tippi Hedren was in the documentaries. Peter Egan, who's a BAFTA-winning actor, was in the documentaries. The incredible Eduardo Gonzalez, who is the character I want to really shine a light on in a new feature film I'm developing, but that's another story for another time. Sir Roger Gale, who's a 40-year veteran of the British government and a very, very close friend of mine for 30 years now. Some phenomenal people we have in the film and still behind us.
Now, I'm sure people are wondering, how did you meet Priscilla Presley and how did you grow this relationship? Can you share the background of that?
Well, it's a very simple story, actually. I was writing a column for a glossy magazine about celebrities and their charity work, and I interviewed Priscilla and we hit it off. It's as simple as that. That's it.
Amazing. That was 20 odd years ago.
That was 2007 that
There
I
you
met
go.
Priscilla.
Yeah, 20 years ago.
Close to
Amazing.
20 years, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And she's had her own challenges, of course. And today's topic, turning grief into grace. Now, this is something, a lot of people have had a lot of grief in their lives, and particularly we've seen through COVID, there's been a lot of challenges for people. And with your story of why you chose this topic, can you share about that?
Well, there's a number of different directions I could take that, but the reason I chose the title for that topic today is because of the current books that I have out. There's this one, Swan Song, which came out 2 years ago, and The Dragon Who Found His Wings, which has only just been released. And these are the two anthropomorphic, people have such problem with that word, anthropomorphic animal adventures of the Mermaid Water series. Now, the grief to grace thing applies in a couple of different ways apropos of these books. Firstly, and I don't want to dwell on this too much, I suffered bilateral nerve damage in my arms in 2015, although it wasn't properly diagnosed until the beginning of 2016, by which time you could have fried eggs on my arms. The inflammation was that hot, and I was incapable of even cutting my own food. So I was completely non-functional. And I lost most of that year in surgery and rehabilitation, and I had to reinvent myself, which is why I moved more into production than writing. And I explored all the various means that are available to us these days to write without using my arms, such as voice technology, which can make some very embarrassing mistakes. As a little digression, for example, I once tried to sign an email with "love as always," and instead it wrote "we are lovers always." Small change of words, big change of meaning. So don't entirely trust voice text technology. So, but I tried that. I tried using ghostwriters. I tried dictating. I tried, working over the shoulder of a typist. Aldwyn, it was just like taking Picasso's brushes away from him. Not to be too diva about it. I couldn't do it. It did not work for me. I was never happy with the result, and it wasn't coming out in my voice. And my voice is quite a unique voice in writing. People have told me more than once, if they didn't know a book was written by me, they would know it was written by me, just because of my style. So when it came to Swan Song, I was not going to use voice technology. I was not going to use a ghostwriter. I was not going to dictate it. I was not going to work over somebody's shoulder. I got a split keyboard, a vertical mouse, arm braces, painkillers, and I wrote it with my eyes on the screen and my hands on the keyboard, because that was the only way I knew it was going to work. And my goodness, it worked. I mean, it went straight to #1 on Kindle when it was released 2 years ago. The reviews have just been wonderful. It's already won a couple of awards. It's up for another one next year. I survived that experience. I was through, and how that came about, because I live on this 17-hectare lake, which is a wildlife haven, and I've created a haven for these animals on my property. And wherever there are any sort of animals, there are politics and dramas. And I was blogging about this particular drama to do with my swan, Serena, who I'd known for 15 years, on social media. And I was gathering a following around the world. If I didn't put a post up for a day, people would phone me. What is happening? Where's Serena? How is she? And, then, of course, everyone knowing I was a writer, you've got to write the book, you've got to write the film. It took me a long time after the actual events to get my head around how I can write it in a consumable way for people who know nothing about the backstory and Hollywoodize it sufficiently, to make it a commercial success, because why else do you do these things? And so I already had a following for Serena and her story before Swan Song came out. But the grief about that was, Serena ultimately was a very old swan. She had lived an incredible life. She had gone through a traumatic drama, which I won't give too many spoilers away. So it was the grief of her death which motivated me to immortalize and glorify her memory in what I do best, storytelling. So that was the grief into grace, and the dealing with the grief of my own disability, I suppose, with the first book, Swan Song, which has been loved by readers aged 8 to 88. I originally thought these were children's books, but the vast majority of my audience are actually adults. I think they say that they're reading them to the children, but I think that's an excuse to actually read them themselves. Adults love these stories. And so the second one, The Dragon Who Found His Wings, which, as I said, this has just been released, and that's already won one award and is also up for 2 other awards next year. This happened when a water dragon, who I had become very close to and I called Swimmer, tragically passed away. He had taken over my swimming pool as his personal water hole. He decided that the filter was his personal bat cave. He would run up my arm, my naked arm, I skinny dipped with it, to eat grapes. And he very sadly got a parasite infection, and I had him taken by animal ambulance to Currumbin Wildlife Hospital, but sadly he was not to be saved, and I could not just let him be dead. So my dragon had found his wings, and all I had was that title. I didn't have the story. Unlike Swan Song, where 70% of that story is true, the story I've come up with The Dragon Who Found His Wings, while in Swimmer's memory, is a completely fictional story. So I had to come up with the story. And I got the inspiration for that by wandering around my property and looking at nature and the environment, what was happening to the environment. And then this piece fell into place, that piece fell into place. And I have this phenomenal paperbark tree on the property, who is a significant character in the book, called Kalara, who is wise and ancient and all-seeing and all-knowing. And the catalyst for the story is Kalara's will only speak to Swimmer and send Swimmer on a quest to find an animal called a Coolawong, who is the only animal who can save all the community of Swamp Hen Island from certain doom because they're under siege from climate change. The Swamp Hen Island, by the way, many reviewers have called the fiction of Swamp Hen Island, is not fictional. You can see it from my living room. It is a very real place, a very real wildlife habitat. Killara is a very real tree, and a lot of the things, although the story is completely fiction, that happen in The Dragon Who Found His Wings are happening. But then Sumo goes off on this quest to find the Coolawong, and he takes Lord Quaxalot. Lord Quaxalot is a white immigrant duck named by my mother for obvious reasons. And he's a very beloved friend of Serena the Swan in the first book. So beloved as he carries through into the second book, because he's a cheeky, wisecracking duck. We love this character. And he's very much alive and well and in my back garden today, by the way. And Precious, who's Lord Quaxalot's mate. So between Swimmer, the water dragon, and Lord Quaxalot and Precious, they can swim and they can fly. And they go off on this perilous quest and have all these adventures to find this Coolawong. But then they've got to get the Coolawong back. And they discover that the Coolawong can't swim, can't fly. How are they going to get him back? How are they going to get him back? So I hit a plot snag. And I went out onto my property where I get all of my inspiration for these books. And I said, how am I going to get this creature who can't swim and can't fly back to Swamp Hen Island? And this massive palm tree seed pod fell in front of me. If you have, I swear to God, Aldwyn, and that's probably where this seed pod came from. If you have ever seen an empty palm tree seed pod, it's a canoe. It is a canoe. So this thing literally fell down in front of me, and I went, yes! And I charged back inside. I said, and honestly, the beta readers of this book went, the seed pod canoe, genius. I said, well, yeah, but it wasn't my genius. It came from there.
Yeah, extraordinary. Yeah. I love that. And you've done about 50 books now, haven't you?
Including all of those I've ghostwritten, yes.
Extraordinary. Amazing. And you know, we often call you celebrity author because you're behind a lot of books that people don't know you're behind. And I don't know if you want to share, you know, some of the interesting characters you work with. No?
Well,
okay.
I obviously can't reveal who I've ghosted for. That
no
defies the objective of being a ghost.
Yes.
But yes, I have ghosted some interesting books as well as those I've authored myself.
Yes. And also you're very passionate about peace as well. And I'd love to hear some of the story of how you brought people from 3 different religions together. And,
oh, wow. That's a bit of a sea change of topics.
Yes.
I'm not sure if that's something I want to go into in this climate. No, I'm going to leave that one alone, Aldwyn.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you've done some extraordinary things that people probably don't know about you. And you do have your own book as well about your life story where they could read more about that, no doubt. So do you want to share about that, about your book?
That's called An Unbelievable Life. I think that might be out of print now. That actually, do you know, you probably think that was released a couple of years ago. That was released 13 years ago.
Wow.
That was 13 years ago.
Wow.
Probably needs a volume 2. A few things have happened in the last 13 years.
Yes. That was an amazing book launch at SeaWorld, I remember.
Sheraton.
Yeah.
That was a fun book launch. And of course, I should mention too, that profits from these 2 books all go to wildlife. Well, a large percentage of the profits from these 2 books go to wildlife rescue. I've already made donations for this Christmas from Santa, ho, ho, ho,
great,
to swan rescue, to wild bird rescue, and to the Australian Koala Foundation. There's a bit of a clue in that last one as to the book.
Yes.
I'm not going to give any more away than that. You have to read the book.
Yes, yes. And there is beautiful flow in your books, I must say. You just want to keep reading on when you start reading your books. You have a beautiful way about you in sharing stories and the color of the stories. You really bring things to life amazingly. And it sounds like the last book, The Dragon Who Found His Wings, sounds like it was almost a spiritual experience, would you say?
I would swear I did not write this book, I channeled it.
Mm.
The story, I mean, I was really determined with Swan Song to be as true as I could be within the realms of being pressured by my Hollywood partners to Hollywoodize it, to keep as much of the true story in there. But with Dragon, because it was a completely fictional story, albeit in Swimmer's memory, I could let my mind run free, and I did. Now, whether that came from within, without, above, or combinations, I don't know. But when this story came to me, I was like, wow, that is a really good story. And within the realms of, obviously that's fantasy and that couldn't happen, that could happen. I could see that happening. So I had a lot of fun doing it as well. And yes, there were, and it's just the inspiration of walking around this beautiful place with, when I was a little girl, my fantasy, I said, it gave you a bit of a hint of that, my first time in Africa, was to be, in a property where I was surrounded by wild animals that were tame. I'm now in a property surrounded by wild animals that are tame. So way to manifest. And they have been amazing inspiration for my stories, which in turn gives back to those animals, because I then support the wildlife rescue people who help rescue and rehabilitate and release these animals, which has been my raison d'etre since a small child.
Love that. It is extraordinary what you've produced, and I'm sure people want to get a copy of it. So where can they go to do that?
Well, it's only available on Amazon. So you can look up either Swan Song by Lynn Santer. There are other titles called Swan Song. Make sure it's the one by Lynn Santer. Or you can look up The Dragon Who Found His Wings. There's only one cheap knockoff, the same title, but there is another one. So make sure it's The Dragon Who Found His Wings by Lynn Santer. Or just look up the Mermaid Waters series and both books will pop up. Or go to the website, swanlakepress.com, and you will find the trailers and the testimonials and Priscilla feeding my swans and all of that on the website. So
Beautiful.
there's lots of, yeah, that's it.
And here's some sites here too: landofthefreemovie.com, lynnsanter.com, and swanlakepress.com. So go in there and you'll see a whole lot of links and interesting resources that you could spend hours on, I'm sure, in there. So definitely check that out. And we do have a lovely comment here from Doris Humes. You are such a humble animal warrior woman, Lynn. What a wonderful journey, and the love and admiration you have for your father. I admire you so very much. So happy you are an Aussie. From Doris or Doris Humes. Thank you for that one, Doris.
Thank you, Doris.
Tracy Corman says, I'm so looking forward to reading The Dragon Who Found His Wings in my upcoming holiday. Great to see you there, Tracy. And yes, I'm sure that will be phenomenal. And on Instagram, we've got Macbeth63, White Frenchie Bella, Don Martin, Joy Avix Ho, as Think Abouten has joined. Hello, hello. Wherever you're joining us from on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, wherever you're tuning in from, let us know.
Are you watching John Thompson in Washington, D.C.? He threatened to be watching. He's in our documentaries.
Oh, great. Okay, John Thompson, if you're there, hello, hello. Let us know, where are you joining us from? And if you have any questions for Lynn now while we're on the live stream, then please pop your questions or comments. Let us know what you're thinking about this conversation. We've got RM Ramesh Rajput here on Facebook. Good evening, dear sister. How are you? We're going well here. Thank you. Macbeth63 says, congratulations, Lynn, on Instagram. Hope you continue to write and produce for many more years. That's lovely. Macbeth 63. And now I am curious what your thoughts are, Lynn, on AI, artificial intelligence. A lot of people are just pumping out books with AI nowadays. And, it's interesting how many books are actually coming out with AI influenced content. What are your thoughts on that?
Here are my thoughts on AI.
Right. So not very favourable, in other words. It definitely kills
I
creativity in many ways, I think.
despise AI. I
Right.
have never, will never creatively use AI. I think it's very good to hire for cleaning toilets and sweeping streets and
Right.
doing those things that we don't want to do, but keep it out of the creative arts. That's my view on AI.
Yes. Yes. Fair enough. Tracy's sending a little laughing emoji there. Yes. Thank you for that, Tracy. Yeah, absolutely. It's
Don't
interesting
be
what.
fooled by the blonde curls.
Yeah. Yes, it's an interesting world we're moving into. They're saying that by 2040, there's going to be 1 billion humanoid robots doing things like folding our clothes, doing our dishes, that kind of stuff, which would be, fantastic to have that kind of help from
Oh,
some robots.
absolutely.
But as far as the creative process, robots will never be able to replace the human heart, right, and the human mind, and that mind body connection that we have, and that creative process of storytelling. I don't think robots and AI will ever be able to match a human being with that. It is interesting how ChatGPT and different programs can do some remarkable things in marketing and in business. However, I think more so now, I think people are going to really value a classic story like you share with your books. You share classic stories, you share the connection of the wildlife with nature and our human connection to wildlife and all of that. I think it's very, very special what you do, and you've got really quite a gift for it, I think. To do 50 books as you have and going strong is extraordinary. And you're always doing some remarkable things. Like, this is just a snippet of Lynn's story, right? Now, an unbelievable life. I wonder if people want to get a copy of that. You said it's out of production, is it? So they can't get your life story now, or will you redo something?
I still have some copies. If somebody's that keen, they can contact me. But I think if you go to look for it online, you might find a second-hand copy somewhere. But no, I think it's out of print. It
Right.
was 13 years ago.
13 years ago. Wow. Yeah, and a lot is print on demand nowadays, isn't it, really? So if you really
Yes,
want
but
something,
that one wasn't.
reach out to
Yeah.
Lynn with that. Now, you did do an amazing Variety Club T-shirt relay back in the day too, and you had some amazing celebrities in that. Could you share a bit
I
about
did.
that?
Well, this was another project of mine, the Magical Scarecrows. The Magical Scarecrow was actually the first story I ever wrote when I was 9. And I very enterprisingly sent it to a publisher without my parents' knowledge when I was 9.
Oh,
And the publisher wrote back to me. I got the address from my Winnie the Pooh book. I was always precocious.
all
And
right.
they sent me a brand new Winnie the Pooh book and said, your writing's very good, but the content isn't long enough, but you really must write again when you're older. And my parents said, what's this? What sort of a profession is that? You become a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant.
Mm.
So I went on, I studied finance and law, and I ultimately made my money writing books. But, so when 25 years later, roughly speaking, my sister fell pregnant for the first time, and I was by then a successful author, I remembered the first story I ever wrote. And I was living in London, my sister was living in Australia. And I thought, well, I'm going to rewrite these stories with 2 magical scarecrows, one in the UK and one in Australia. And I'm going to let them teach my new niece or nephew life lessons. I wrote it as a gift from myself to my sister's child. It wasn't supposed to be public. But some years later, my sister had 2 children. The children loved it. They shared it with their friends and they loved it. And I decided that it would be a nice social enterprise gesture to make this book available free to children in third world countries, to teach them the skill of literacy. And I had various other programs that sprang up from that. There was the Magical Scarecrows Let's Make Magic Day, which were annual variety shows with some of my celebrity friends for disabled and disadvantaged children, which were great successes. And then I had this brainwave, because I'd gathered a number of celebrity friends around the world, to start the Magical Scarecrows Stars with Hearts International Celebrity T-shirt relay. And I contacted a number of my friends and said, would you be prepared to sign this T-shirt, take a photograph of yourself signing it, and then send it on to the next celebrity? And they all said yes. We had Hugh Jackman, Jackie Chan, Priscilla, obviously, Virginia, Tippy, Barry Crocker, Leo Sayer, a couple of dozen of them. It took 12 months to go 54,000 kilometers around the world. And Joe Bucknell was another one, heavyweight boxing champion. And it was ultimately sold for, I think, $10,000 to Variety, the children's charity. And that was a very proud moment of my life. And I kept a blog, which I turned into a book of that as well, which was authored by I, the letter I, full stop, M, the letter M, full stop, A, full stop, T-shirt. I am a T-shirt. Say it quickly. I am a T-shirt. So I am a teacher, authored this blog. And so that became a record of the 12-month journey and photos of each of the celebrities as they signed it. And obviously a copy of that went away with the T-shirt. So, that was quite a logistical exercise and a bit of fun that turned out quite well.
Yes, and I came on part of that journey with you. I remember being in Sydney,
You
getting
did.
a photo of you with Leo Sayer, and then we got Darren Hinch.
Right.
Darren Hinch, right. And there was a guy from Neighbours there as well.
Yes, Lou. Oh gosh, yes, Lou. Somebody. Yes.
There was a Tom somewhere. Anyway, there was a few people there. We had the Neighbours guy and a few others. So, that was really cool.
Barry
It's
Crocker,
like
beautiful Barry Crocker.
Yes, Barry Crocker, who I interviewed recently, thanks to the reconnection with you. I actually interviewed Barry many years ago when he did the Banjo Patterson show here on the Gold Coast when I was a journalist at The Sun all those years ago. And then I was reconnected to him through you. Thanks so much for that. And at 88 years of age, he did his longest interview ever on Media Queen TV. It was about an hour and 45 minutes. And what an amazing man he is. Extraordinary, absolute legendary person as well as entertainer. It's fantastic. If you haven't seen that interview, go check it out with Barry Crocker. He's extraordinary man. And there's the thing, a lot of these performers and, celebrities, a lot of them, they love their life. They love what they do. And they bring so much joy on and off screen, right? They the tough ones survive and some don't. Some fall off the bandwagon. But, that's the journey of life, right? This is the roller coaster ride of life. And this is, we're talking about turning grief into grace, turning lemons into limoncello or, into lemonade for some people.
Gin and tonic.
A gin and tonic, yes. And it's always a choice, right? In any moment, how you're going to deal with grief, how you're going to deal with some atrocities you see going on in the world. Are you going to take action and do something about it? Or are you going to sit back and go, it's all too hard. What can I do as little old me? So for those who might be feeling some grief around something or might be upset about something right now, what do you suggest that they do to help move through that to come to a point of grace?
Go out into nature. No matter how dark the cloud is around you, open your eyes and your heart and your mind, and you will find beauty and inspiration and solace out there. Now, it's not that there isn't drama and horror and sadness in the wildlife world as well. But I have been through enough dark times in my life to tell you with complete certainty, no matter if you are in a rural or an urban area, you can find a flower, a tree, a bird. The marvel of a spider's web. You can find something that will inspire you, comfort you, bring you solace. Just go into nature. And that's certainly where all of my inspiration has come from.
And then building the confidence to actually step up and speak up or do something about it. Now, everyone can share a social media post. Everyone can write to their local member, or, everyone can do something, right? So what about, any tips around building the confidence and the courage to actually do something about it?
Don't be afraid of rejection. Don't be afraid of what anybody says. Who cares if somebody says no to you? Who cares what somebody else says? Doesn't bother me. Why should it bother you? Don't let these things get to you. I mean, it's easy to say and easy for me to do, not so easy for others who don't have quite the thick skin that I do, perhaps. But my best advice is, if it's getting to you, stop it. Just
Yes.
put up the wall, have the gin and tonic, whatever it takes. Don't let the turkeys bring you down.
Yes, absolutely. You've got to build that strength, build that inner resilience.
Or this time of year, you could go to a good Christmas cake. I have a recipe here.
Yes, you do. And we'll come to that recipe in just a moment. We've got Share Musician Love here. Nice to see you. Macbeth says, yes, nature is amazing on Instagram. Tracy says, I love that. Thank you so much for all your comments here. We love to keep this show interactive, so please let us know what you're getting from this. Any tips that you have on turning grief into grace, love to hear from it. And of course, having a good laugh is a great way to help overcome grief as well and to lift the energy. In fact, Tracy and I started the Gold Coast Business Laughter Club back in the day, and we always have a good giggle. In fact, we are the Fiddly Gigglers in another lifetime too. We do this little comedy duo and always have a good laugh. And with you too, Lynn, we've had many, many great times where we laughed and laughed and laughed. So I must say, joy is a wonderful thing, being able to laugh. So let's get to this Christmas recipe, shall we? And see what you've got
Actually,
there.
another one of the books I've written.
Yes.
I'm trying to think. It's just what the doctor ordered. Laughter is the best medicine.
I
think it's just what the doctor ordered. But it's a lot of friends of mine from around the world, and my own situation as well. You can find humor in almost anything. And that definitely is a survival technique. And I'll tell you something else. Success isn't the golden bullet either. The higher you climb on the mountain, the stronger the winds, the more people there are ready to push you off.
True.
So you do need to find whatever your survival mechanism is, whether it's laughter or nature or rhinoceros skin, or in my case, let's go to the good Christmas cake. It is December. I am Santa.
Yes.
Shall we?
Let's do it.
Best Christmas cake recipe you'll ever hear. So these are the ingredients. 1 cup of sugar, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 cup of water, a teaspoon of salt, 1 cup of brown sugar, lemon juice, 4 large eggs, nuts, 1 bottle of vodka, 2 cups of dried fruit. Now here is the method. Sample a cup of vodka to check the quality. Take a large bowl. Check the vodka again. To be sure it is of the highest quality, repeat. Now, turn on the electric mixer. Beat 1 cup of butter into a large fluffy bowl. Add 1 teaspoon of sugar. Now beat again. At this point, it's best to make sure that the vodka's still okay. Try another cup just in case, and turn off the mixer's thingy. Break 2 legs, add to the bowl, and chuck in the cup of dried fruit. Pick the dried fruit up off the floor. Wash it and put it in the bowl a piece at a time, trying to count it. Mix on the turner. If the fried druid gets stuck in the pieces, fry it loose with discover. Sample the vodka again to check for the toxicity. Next, sift 2 cups of salt or something and shake the vodka. Now, sift the lemon juice and strain your nuts. Add 1 table. Add a spoon of sugar or something, whatever you can find. Grease the oven, turn the cake 360 degrees and try not to fall over. Don't forget to boot off the turner and finally throw the ball through the window, finish the vodka, fall into bed. Christmas! Best Christmas cake recipe ever.
Oh, I love
and on
that.
that note, I should bid you adieu.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Oh my gosh. Tracy's sending lots of love and laughter as well. Oh my gosh. That is so funny. You do that so well, Lynn. I would almost say you've
I've
almost
done it
reversed.
once before.
I really want to taste it. I want to sample that. I want to see what all the rage is about.
Because you really must actually make it one day.
And talking of recipes, you also have a recipe book, right, that you did?
I do. This recipe came to me when my arms fell over and I stopped writing. I started cooking because there's so much produce you can buy that's pre-sliced and diced and food processors and one thing and another. So yes, for many years I took up cooking instead and found I wasn't half bad at it and sort of enjoyed it. Whereas I sort of got a rash when I went near a kitchen before that. But that's another story.
Yeah, you are an amazing cook too. Had many great dinner parties at your place.
It's been a lemon, make a gin and tonic.
Yeah. Love it. It's been fantastic chatting with you, Lynn, as always. So much wisdom shared, and those books are extraordinary. So definitely get your hands on them if you can. I
am really proud of these books, not just because I love the stories. It's not just me who loves the stories. Everybody loves the stories.
Yes.
But because these are the only 2 books that I wrote with my eyes on the screen and my hands on the keyboard since the bilateral nerve damage of my arms. So I am doubly proud of them, not just because of the stories, but because I turned my grief into determined grace by writing these books myself. So I'm very, very proud of them.
Amazing.
And I'm very proud that they're helping wildlife as well.
It's absolutely brilliant. And that's nearly 10 years since the nerve damage, wasn't it? 2015, 16, you said. Yeah, nearly 10 years. Wow. So this has been nearly, 10 years since you've actually done your own book since the nerve damage. That's amazing. Own books, and they are extraordinary. So definitely get your hands on them if you can. As we shared earlier, these go to swanlakepress.com, swanlakepress.com.
Or Amazon.
Yeah, or search on Amazon, and also check out landofthefreemovie.com and Lynn Santer, Lynn, and Santer, Santer.com.
Commonly misspelled this month.
Oh.
As Santa.
Oh, yes. Misspelled for December. Yes, Santa, of course.
I wear the hat.
Through December. Absolutely love that. Anything else you want to share, Lynn?
I wish peace on earth to all creatures great and small. I wish everyone a love and joy-filled Christmas. I'm not afraid to say Merry Christmas. And festive season, whatever faith you happen to follow. So whether it's Hanukkah or Christmas or whatever other faith it happens to be, enjoy the holiday season, and may 2025 be a kinder year to all creatures great and small. Thank you.
I love that. Thank you so much, Lynn. And for those who want to connect with me, you can go to linktr.ee/Aldwyn, linktr.ee/Aldwyn. In there, you'll see my upcoming event called Propel Your Profile in 2025. That's coming up on January 3 at 11 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. It's a free online workshop. You'll find details there. Also, some great media resources there. We've got my calendar link if you want to book a call, if you're ready to be seen, heard, and known and stop being the world's best kept secret, then please reach out there as well. And we've got the Global Good News Challenge every month there and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. It looks just like that, Aldwyn Altuney Media Queen TV. We've got over 1,400 videos there now, over 280,000 views across all our videos, and so grateful for so much inspiring content in there. And we did actually do what we didn't talk about is Soweto, the Soweto Choir. We do have an interview in there on Media Queen TV as well, because you won Best Soundtrack, didn't you, at the AFIN Awards recently as well?
The Mazansi Youth Choir of Soweto.
Yes. Mazansi Youth Choir of Soweto. Yes.
It's another long story, but yes, this is a group of children who have been plucked out of the slums of Soweto, who often had no parents, no inside toilet facilities. Sometimes they had to take turns who ate on a particular day, but they had the God-given gift of music. And a very visionary man called Yanni Zyman, and there's a lot of backstory to that, began this choir 20 years ago, and they have gone on to win standing ovations in the Royal Albert Hall, perform with superstars as diverse as from Beyonce to Bocelli, and they recently made history as the first group ever to win the Golden Buzzer on American Has Got Talent, and brought the hardened Simon Cowell to tears. And I love them, love them, love them, love them, love them. And they worked with me on both of my Land of the Free films. And there's already been the beginnings of some compositions of some music for Swan Song too.
Exciting. And this music will stir your soul. It is amazing. And I would love to see your novels turned into feature animated films. That would be amazing. Amazing. So stay tuned. Well, that's a wrap here on Media Queen TV. Thank you so much, Lynn Santer. Thank you. Merry Christmas, RM Ramesh as well. Rajput, good to see you there. Thank you for joining. Thank you. It's a wrap, and it's a clap for the wrap. Yay. Sending you all much love. We'll see you again. Happy festive season. Thank you, Lynn. Love your work. See you next time.